Good evening, YouTube. My name is Andrew. Thanks so much for stopping by my channel. Today's Tuesday, March 12th, 2024, and I wanted to take a few minutes and record a quick video for y'all because literally just a few minutes ago, I got out of the car from an 11-hour drive back to North Carolina from Florida, where I went down and visited for Major League Baseball spring training this year. And this is something that I wanted to do since I was a little kid, really forever. Lifelong goal, and I finally checked it off the list this year, and I had a truly amazing time. It was, in my opinion, worth every mile, every minute, and every dollar I spent. And I wanted to just take a few minutes and share with y'all some lessons learned and recommendations that I had based on my experience so that if you're thinking about a trip of your own, you can have an amazing time yourself. So like I said, thanks so much for stopping by. So I wanted to take a quick minute and first talk through some reasons that if you're thinking about taking a trip down to spring training, why you absolutely should. And obviously I know we have the two different bases for spring training, both in Florida and Arizona. As a disclaimer, this video will only touch on Florida as that's the only place I've gotten a chance to go to. I was able to visit the spring training sites of the New York Mets, the Washington Nationals and Houston Astros down in West Palm Beach, as well as the New York Yankees in Tampa. So got to check out a few different parks, which is really cool. But like I said, the Arizona stuff I won't really touch on since I haven't gotten a chance to be there. So maybe one day though. So in terms of reasons why you absolutely should go to spring training if you're thinking about it, one of the biggest reasons, and I think, arguably the strongest, is that it's such an intimate venue for baseball. When I first got down to the West Palm Beach area, I stopped at the Mets facility because that night they were having a game between the New York Mets and the Washington Nationals. And I, as a Nats fan, wanted to have the opportunity to both see my team play and also see them play somewhere that was along my route down south. And really the venue at Clover Park, and really for all of the spring training parks, is so unique and intimate. Instead of stadiums that seat 40,000, you're going to stadiums that seat 7,000, max 10,000 in some places. It's almost like going to a minor league game, but with the scope of the major leagues, with folks decked out to the nines in their gear for their major league teams, with the closeness to the players that you have in the major leagues. But you also have that affordability with the minor leagues that frankly you don't have with the major leagues that you get at these spring training ballparks. So it's such an intimate venue for baseball, and you can be so close to these star players like Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso, CJ Abrams. You can see up and coming prospects like Dylan Cruz and James Wood. See players like Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, very, very close up, and in a lot of instances for a fraction of the price as what you would see in the Bronx or in Washington. So if you're looking for an experience where you're really close to the players, really close to the field, and you like to hear the crack of the bat, I highly recommend spring training because it will just bring you physically so much closer to the game than you would be for a regular season game. And I think also as a follow-up point to that as well, and I think one of the biggest reasons why folks make the trip down for spring training is you have the physical closeness to the players. And in a lot of instances, you get to interact with the players, which you may never do in the regular season. A lot of the teams that are down in Florida, they will have open practices where you can show up and just watch them practice. And it's not like it's, a super official thing. It's literally you can go up to the practice fields and these players will walk right past you. I remember being at the Nats facility and looking over my shoulder, and Alex Call, one of the outfielders for the Nationals, just happened to be walking right next to me. And I got to have a conversation and chat with him. I got to meet and have autographs and small conversations with folks like Patrick Corbin, Dylan Cruz, Cade Cavalli, who's one of the big Nationals prospects. The proximity and closeness that you get to these players is incredible. And it goes without saying, but that gives you an amazing opportunity to get selfies with players. I took one with Dylan Cruz, which was sweet. I got to get my Nats hat here autographed by over 10 different players on the Nats team. Everybody from Dylan Cruz to active major leaguers like Patrick Corbin, prospects like James Wood and Robert Hassel, folks like Alex Call, who I know I talked about a moment ago, pitchers all across the roster. Like I said, you just get a level of access to the players that you would never get at a regular season game. And for the most part, the players are really, really nice. Everybody was super friendly. Everyone made a point to spend time with the fans, talk to you. It's a much more easygoing atmosphere. It's very, very laid back. Another awesome benefit of going down for spring training is that you get a chance to see some of the younger prospects for your favorite team in action. So for instance, I know I mentioned a few of them already, but it was amazing getting to see someone like James Wood, who just has a powerful swing and is just this huge dude. You can totally see how he gets all that power from. You can see him, like I said, at a level of closeness that you would never be able to see in DC. Got to see folks like him, got to see Dylan Cruz, Robert Hassel, so many young Nationals prospects. And then even for other teams, I got to see folks like Jeremy Pena for the Astros, for instance, right in front of me. Only a section or two in front of me right on the field. And that's a level of access that you would just never get with the regular season. So if you want to get a chance to see these young prospects for your team in action, I highly recommend going to spring training, because for at least half the game of each game, the teams will just put their young guys out there just to get a feel of what major league pitching is like, to get a feel of what it's like to play against major league hitters if they're a pitcher. And you can quite literally see the future of your franchise. I think one thing also to note is that, and I know I touched on this a little bit earlier, but there's also affordable tickets. I think the most I spent on a ticket for spring training was maybe $55, right behind home plate for the New York Yankees. So for the most part, tickets are really affordable. You can probably get an average spring training ticket for $15 to $20 anywhere along the first or third base lines. It's really affordable. And that the same thing also goes with concessions. Concessions are a lot more affordable than you would get with the major leagues. It's that level of intimacy that you wouldn't get with a regular season game, but you also get the affordability that you wouldn't be able to get with a regular season game. One thing I also wanted to note was there's some really cool ballparks out there. I'm partial. I thought the Cacti Park of the Palm Beaches, where the Astros and Nationals played together, was amazing. It was, like I said, very intimate. I couldn't believe how close I was to the field. I couldn't believe how close I was to the players. I could actively hear them having conversations. I ended up sitting in the literal section next to Mike Rizzo, the president of baseball operations for the Nationals, and ended up meeting him and having a conversation with him. And like I said, just that level of closeness to the field, and the fact that you can hear the crack of the bat, players on the field can hear fans talking in the stands. You can have conversations with the players. Like I said, these ballparks are just really cool and unique. And there are lots of really cool, quirky features of these different parks. I think of a place like JetBlue Park at Fenway South that has a mini green monster. Or I think about Steinbrenner Field up in Tampa that had the facade that is in the Bronx at Yankee Stadium, and also the exact same dimensions in Yankee Stadium. There are lots of really cool ways that these major league clubs work in these features of the major league ballparks at their respective minor league facilities, or I shouldn't say minor league facilities, but at these spring training sites, which is really cool. Each park is very unique to the respective teams that play there. Like I said, it was really cool going to Cacti Park of the Palm Beaches, where there was a giant curly W out front of the facility, along with the 2019 World Series sign that was lit up, World Champions, which was really cool. And on the flip side of that, also with the Astros sharing the facility, you could see all the different championship banners of the Astros for their division titles, for their World Series championships, for their pennants, everything like that. There's also lots of green space at a lot of these parks. You get a chance to sit out in berms in the outfield. You can get lots of different awesome food and drink options, a lot of which are kind of tailored to the area where the park is. So I highly recommend spring training, even from just checking out different ballparks. It's a really cool experience. And I think also one thing that's really cool to note as well is that there's just really good weather down there. March in Florida, really nice weather. It's good to be out in the sunshine. North Carolina doesn't get super cold, but it's good to go down and be in some more tropical weather, get a chance to maybe go to the beach on some off days when I'm not at the park. It's a blast. So all that being said, I highly recommend going to spring training for those reasons. If you choose to go to spring training, I also do have a few recommendations for you as well. And the first is to definitely expectation set. There are lots of great resources out there on the internet. Reddit is a really great one for if you're looking for any tips or tricks for going to spring training. If you're looking for any suggestions on, for instance, what time to get to the facilities to get autographs from players, highly recommend consulting the internet. highly recommend Reddit specifically because there are so many other fans who've had the exact same experience. I would definitely use the resources at your disposal on the internet and through Reddit to learn about all things in terms of getting player autographs and access to the facilities. That was where I learned about, getting to the facility for the Nats 4 hours early. That's when they open the gates and that's when they do autographs. So definitely recommend consulting those resources. Additionally, if you can, I would definitely recommend driving to spring training. Obviously, if you are someone like a Detroit Tigers fan who's going down to Lakeland, Florida, that's maybe 20 something hour drive. Like, don't do that. But in my case, going from North Carolina down to Florida is about 11 hours each way. And the drive, don't get me wrong, the drive stunk. Definitely didn't enjoy the drive, but because I drove down there, I was able to have my car with me and go between facilities as I wanted to. So I could go to some games with the Nats and Astros. I could go to a game at the Mets facility. I could drive up to Tampa and go see the Yankees. Whereas had I flown into the Palm Beaches, I would have had to rent a car. That would have been more money. Or maybe I'm just more geographically isolated and the only games I can really go to are those ones at Cacti Park. So if you can, I definitely recommend driving. And I think also that plays into the next point that I want to make is that if you can make a trip of it, definitely do it. And by that, I mean, don't just go there for the baseball. Obviously go to the spring training games, but while you're down there, if you're going to Florida, maybe go to Disney World. If it's along the way, if you're driving down, or if you're going to see teams in West Palm Beach, for instance, or Jupiter, Florida, maybe take a day off and go to the beach. That's one of my only regrets from my trip is I wish I scheduled maybe one day on the front or back end that was exclusively just for non-baseball stuff, where I could go to the beach or focus on going out and trying some local restaurants. Definitely take advantage of all there is to offer in a given area. And the baseball is obviously why you're there, if you're watching this. But like I said, definitely, get your beach time in. Go to Disney World, maybe check out Busch Gardens in Tampa. Check out the area because there's a lot to see, explore, and do outside of baseball alone. On that same note, I would also recommend against over-programming. Make sure you give yourself enough time to go to the games and obviously enjoy them, get your autographs, but also make sure that you don't over-program. The last thing you want is to go on a vacation to be super restorative and then you're super burned out because you're going park to park, going to 2-3 games in one day. Like, definitely take your time, focus on quality over quantity. I went to 6 games over, I think, 5 days, which was more than enough baseball. And while, like I said, I really loved it, I wouldn't do any more than I did. I would definitely recommend focusing on just enjoying your experience, taking it at a leisurely pace. If the games work out and they're in the area that you're staying in, definitely go to any game that you want to, obviously. But I would advise against, maybe going to 11 games over 7 days. You don't want to burn yourself out because at the end of the day, it is, it is a trip. And, at the end of the day, it is to allow you to relax at a baseball game. So I would definitely say be intentional about your programming and make sure to not burn yourself out through the course of your trip. I know I touched on this already, but definitely make sure to visit other ballparks if you get a chance to. I know that plays a lot into driving, but there's so many cool facilities out there to check out. So definitely recommend that. I think a big one that I wanted to note as well is be kind to the staff on site at these different spring training parks and also just be kind to the players. One thing that I saw a lot of when I was at spring training is there were lots of folks that they would see a player, for instance, Patrick Corbin, and they would just go up to Patrick Corbin or Dylan Cruz and they would just shove a hat in their face to sign it or shove a baseball in their face. The players really seem to appreciate it, at least from what I experienced. They really seem to appreciate, you just taking a moment saying, hey, Patrick, do you have time? Or, hey, would you mind if I get your autograph? How's your day going? A lot of times players aren't just willing to, take a selfie with you or sign, whatever it is you have, but they'll talk to you for a minute. They have the time. It's a very relaxed, open environment. Take a moment and have that interaction with a player on top of just getting an autograph, because I'm sure to some extent they really appreciate that. At least some of the players seemed really appreciative of that when that was something that I did when I was meeting some of the Nats players, which was great. Definitely wear sunscreen too. Definitely avoid getting burnt to a crisp if you're going down to Florida or Arizona. Even in February or March, you can get a pretty gnarly sunburn if you're not diligent about your sunscreen. So I would definitely recommend doing that as well. I learned that the hard way on day 2 of my trip when I went to the beach. I got burnt pretty bad. Even though it wasn't super hot, the UV index was pretty high, so definitely recommend checking the weather, getting your UV index set, bringing a ton of sunscreen, SPF 30, SPF 50, and you should be all right. But like I said, just be diligent. Apply it a few times a game if you're going to a game. Also take advantage of any shaded areas in the park as well. If there's a section with an overhang, maybe sit under there to give yourself some protection from the sun. Or if there is, a section underneath the concourse that you can sit in, sit there. Or use something like shadyseats.com to look up these different parks that you're going to go to. That way you can sit in the shade and avoid getting yourself burnt to a crisp. And then lastly, I just wanted to make a point as well that there's some really cool gear at spring training. I would definitely recommend, as my last recommendation to y'all, if you're thinking about a trip, definitely grab some cool spring training gear, because there's a lot of really unique stuff. Starting with the hat series for spring training. This is the Nationals 2024 spring training series, and it's dry fit. It's a snapback, which is really cool. They've got a lot of really cool specialty hats for spring training. They have the clubs ones, obviously, that the players wear in the field. And they've also got ones like this that I got in Tampa for the Yankees that are obviously very, Florida spring training themed, that are really, really unique. And I think do a really good job of, highlighting what an experience at spring training is really like. And a lot of times when you go to spring training as well, you'll get a chance to get gear like this shirt I have on that, notes that the town the Nats play in, West Palm Beach. They've got a ton of exclusive merchandise. They've got Hawaiian shirts. They've got, God knows how many t-shirts. Some have the state of Florida on them, says National Spring Training. Another thing that I wanted to show that I thought was pretty cool is you might get an opportunity to get some gear that hasn't necessarily hit the team store in the team's respective city yet. And so I was able to pick up this bad boy down in West Palm Beach. This is the Nationals' new alternate Capitol Dome pullover jersey for 2024. And I was able to pick it up at the team store down in Tampa, or not in Tampa, in West Palm Beach. But I was able to get my hands on it because it first hit the store there and was made available at spring training. So definitely recommend gearing out if you get a chance to go to spring training, because there's some really cool stuff. So anyway, thank you all so much for stopping by and listening to my video. I know a lot of different points, a lot of different things I covered, but in summation, if you are thinking about going to spring training, I highly, highly recommend it. It is a blast. It's a long trip, but it's really well worth it. The experience that you get being able to watch the game in such an intimate environment, to have the interactions with the players, to have the interactions with folks in the staff, to meet other fans, to go spend some time in the sunshine. It's absolutely 1000% worth it. And if I didn't live 10 plus hours away from Florida, I'd be going every year because it was truly such a special experience. So thank you all so much for stopping by my channel. I really appreciate your time. Would love to see y'all leave comments. If y'all have been to spring training, would love to get your thoughts, and feedback on what your experience with spring training was like. And thank you again for stopping by my channel. Thank you all so much and have a great day.